Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Mike here at Angry Jellyfish Games. You might know me from the Discord. I go by Osmati there. I posted a couple days ago saying that this set 6 of My Hero has got me pretty excited, got my brewing going. I'm going to try to head down to Worlds for the LCQ for the HLC, so I'm going to be looking at a couple of decks that I've been thinking about putting together. Going to try to focus on not the new characters in set 6, but some of the older characters that are getting new tools from this, new upgrades. So today we're going to start with, see if I can do this. There we go. We're going to start with Fat Gum. So he's 8 feet tall, he's 8 feet wide, and he's not very good. Fat Gum is a 5 hand size, 29 health. He has an enhance that lets you look at your top 4 cards and build one foundation or asset, discard the rest. That's not that powerful, but if you start your turn in time for a first form and you're either in deadlock or you're at 10 or less, you get to turn into Fat Gum 2. Fat Gum 2 draws 3 cards immediately, has a hand size of 6, although when you transform to him, you're just going to draw up to 8. He gets to flip and commit 2 of your opponent's foundations, and he gets to burn through his own foundations to give stats to all your moves. Going to make them faster, going to make them hit hard. So the problem with Fat Gum is that you have to meet that condition, right? In time for the first form, you have to either be at 10 or below, which means you're letting your opponent hit you for 19, and you're giving them a lot of control and agency over that. Some of his symbols that he's on are going to let you pay a little bit of life here and there. His secret rare Spear and Shield can let you pay 2 life on block to try to surprise your opponent, go from 11 to 9, something like that. But for the most part, it's more up to your opponent than up to you when this is going to happen. So if we look at the other condition, that's deadlock. To get into deadlock, you have to be at 11 foundations, but once you enter deadlock, your opponent has access to any deadlock abilities on their cards. So let's look at a couple of deadlock cards that showed up in top cuts of US Nationals this past weekend. The ones that we're scared of are things like Pull No Punches and Ice Storm, deadlock abilities that are going to make your opponent's attacks much faster, much harder to block. Some of them are going to make them hit harder. What we're more concerned about is actually this other category to the right here. Your Grasping Tape Toss, you're taking the gloves off, and First Villain Encounter. These are deadlock abilities that your opponent is going to have access to that will immediately take you back out of deadlock. So if you build into deadlock on their turn, go from 10 to 11 or whatever, they might have this chance to take you right back out, and then you don't have access to your first form when you start your turn. So this is what we're concerned about. Again, with the deadlock, you're giving your opponent a lot more agency than you have with the character. So that is where set 6 comes along. We're going to be looking at 2 new additions on good to the foundation base for Fat Gum that we can play. They're going to help out with this. The first is Always Cool. This has an enhance. You're going to shove this into your card pool, and you're going to build the top 2 cards of your deck face down. So this is going to put you up 1 foundation, take you from 9 to 10, take you from 10 to 11 maybe. Again, we don't necessarily want to go into deadlock with this. We just want to threaten being able to go up more foundations if our opponent is attacking. The one that I'm way more excited about is number 4 Pro Hero out of Edshot's kit. So this says, when you review this card, if you have 2 or more foundations, you build this face down. What that means is that if you start your turn at 10 foundations, you can review this, it's going to build into 11, and that happens before your first form. So it's an action you get to take to go up into deadlock before that first form restriction on timing. It also lets you, at enhanced speed, pick it up from your stage, put it in your hand so that you have access to the reviewing more often. So if your opponent's attacking, if you're attacking, you might have built this early, turn 1 or 2, you need it in your hand for the review to surprise go into deadlock. You can just pick it up at enhanced speed. So this is the list that I'm messing around with right now. I'm going to try to do some testing next time I have a chance to play. But I'm just going to go through some of the card choices and the attack package, try to walk through the strategy here. First things first, this whole deck is a Venn diagram. We have cards that build, we have cards that draw. You need to get up to 10 foundations quickly. You can't do it turn 1, you're going to try to do it turn 2, either building yourself or using your enhances or some other abilities on your opponent's turn. Manly Passionate Guy, Male Bonding, these let you build more when your opponent is attacking you, either from tanking the hit or blocking and building it with Manly Passionate. Contempt for Heroes, Passing the Torch, Big 3, these are all letting you draw more cards. Contempt for Heroes, when you build, you have a shot to draw another foundation off the top, and when your opponent is drawing extra cards, as long as it's not due to their character effect, you can flip this to draw an extra card as well. Then, of course, in the middle of our Venn diagram, we have New Training Method. This card is absolutely busted. It's going to let you find that number 4 pro hero more often, because if you check it, you can commit and flip New Training Method to pick it right up. And it's going to let you mess with your progressive difficulty a little bit on your build turns. And also, it has combo potential with Contempt for Heroes. If you start the game, you have maybe a 3 foundation hand, but it has both Contempt and New Training Method. You can build all 3 of your foundations, trigger the response on Contempt to try to draw that 4th foundation, and if you do, build it in with New Training Method immediately. Now, once we've flipped, we go on the offensive. Turn 2, 3 maybe, we're not trying to get any kills in. We might be playing 1 attack per turn just to use the enhance on our face or some of the other foundations we have to build more. But for the most part, we want to kill our opponent all at once. So again, we're looking at a Venn diagram here. We have things that let us attack more and things that draw more attacks. So on the one side, clearing your progressive difficulty with Pull No Punches, with Capture Evildoers, building more with Go for the Win, Precious Lesson, BMI Busters, Hardened Chop, etc. On the other side, we have Future Charge is going to draw cards, Missouri Smash is going to draw cards, Hardened Frenzy, I did put on the wrong side of this Venn diagram, don't worry about it, and everyone's favorite, Hardened Jab. It's doing both. You're picking up a potential attack that you built face down, and you're building more. This is really a 3-diff move. So you are just throwing as many attacks as at your opponent as possible on this kill turn. After maybe the first or second, you're giving all of them +3 damage, +1 speed with Facum 2, and your first 2 attacks you get to discard a card to commit and flip their most defensive or most important or deadlock foundation. Now, I also added a Deku's Notebook in this list, so you might be wondering why. Well, if you look at the arrow here, you can build assets with Facum. Now, on the good symbol, you don't have a ton of options offensively, but I really like Deku's Notebook here. Normally, I wouldn't put it in any deck. If you're actually paying the cost for it, it's really not quite worth it. It doesn't do quite enough for you. But again, you're trying to kill your opponent all at once. So on that attack turn, if you start with a Deku's Notebook on your very first attack, you get to look at your opponent's hand, and that's going to tell you everything you need to know about which attacks to play, which ones to leave behind and not have to commit to, right? You get to look at their hand, see which blocks they have available, and adjust your current attack zone to plan accordingly. You might flip a low to a high, bait out a high block, and then follow up with all high attacks, something like that. When I'm deck building, I always try to look at the charts that are available on UVS Ultra. These are the 2 that I look at the most often. So block zone, you want to have access to typically a pretty even distribution of mid, highs, and lows. I'm pretty happy with this number here. A little high on mid technically, but we're a tight enough deck that we should have the ability to see all 3 whenever we need to. And then difficulty curve. You'll notice missing from my attack lineup is Back Alley Haymaker. And the reason why is I think that 5-handers need a lot more from their foundation, so you're not going to run as many 0 diffs. The only one I included was It Can't Be Fixed, because again, it's building more foundations on your opponent's turn if they choose to stun you or commit one of your foundations or whatever. But because you're playing so few, you really don't have the advantage from Back Alley. The stats to cost ratio on it aren't great if you don't have access to a really good 0 diff to pick up and build. Otherwise, it's just a 5 diff, it draws a card, but it's a 4 mid to 5. It's the most blockable move in the world. Alright. So I'm going to post my list here again so that you can pause the video here and look through it, some of the other choices. I'm going to try to post a permanent link to this in UVS Ultra in the video description, so you can check that out. And depending on how this goes over, I'm going to try to do a few more of these before I start really testing for the HLC. I got a couple ideas that I want to put out there and get some feedback on. So next time I do this, we're going to be looking at Ojiro 2. All right, I'll catch you later.